Hey guys, it's Alora, and today I'm here to do my January wrap-up. So I read a total of 10 books in the month of January, which puts me, by the way, 7 books ahead of my Goodreads goal, maybe 6 books by this point, but many books ahead of my Goodreads challenge, which is pretty fun. I like that, starting off the year with a bang. So let's just go ahead and get started. The first book that I read in January was The Soul Searcher's Handbook by Emma Milden. Now, this book is essentially a young woman's new age guidebook. It talks about everything from yoga to meditation to feng shui, aromatherapy, lots of things. What I particularly love about this book, there are 2 things that I really enjoy, is that there are all of these little side boxes, so it makes it fun to read. It feels like one of those, it almost feels like a magazine is what it feels like, with lots of little boxes on the side that you can read that are separate, and there are also diagrams, which is fun, and the book has color, which is great. It really is designed in such a way that it's easy to find what you're looking for. I don't necessarily agree with everything in this book, so I'm not saying that. But what's cool is that she has these little scales, 2 scales. There's a woo-woo scale, so like how out there is this? So meditation, might be really low on the woo-woo scale, whereas auras or something might be really high on the woo-woo scale. So you can kind of judge based upon that scale how interested you might be in something or how intimidated you might be by it. So I really like that. Overall, I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. It was really informative, just about a lot of things that people believe. So there's that. The second book that I read is also light pink, and that is Nasty Galaxy by Sophia Amoruso. This is a concept book. It's weird, honestly. I don't even, it's hard to describe. Sophia Amoruso, if you don't know who she is the founder of Nasty Gal online, which is this clothing distributor / manufacturer. She's a very prominent businesswoman. She wrote a book called Girl Boss that was about being a woman in the world of business, and I really did like that book. This book, it's kind of confusing. It's not really a memoir. It's not really a brand book. It's a concept book. There are just lots of random things in it. There are quotes, there are albums that inspire her, there are pictures from her lines, there are pictures of her, there are recipes. I felt when I read through it that there wasn't really very much cohesion, so I didn't personally like it. I gave it a very low rating on Goodreads. It's not to say that I didn't enjoy reading through it, but when I was reading through it I felt confused. Like, wait, what am I reading and why am I spending my time reading this? It is a cool coffee table book. It looks nice on the outside. Anyway, if you're really into Sophia Amoruso or her brand, check it out. Otherwise, maybe not. We are continuing on with the pink theme. I read The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. This is the second book that I've read by Nicola Yoon. I did read Everything, which they're making into a movie with that guy who was in The Kings of Summer, and he was in The Fifth Wave too, and I really like him. And then also the girl who played Rue in The Hunger Games, because now apparently she's a teenager. Sometimes I feel old. I know I don't look old, but sometimes when people were kids when I was a teenager, I feel weird when now they're... Anyway, you get what I'm saying. I'm sure you've heard of it. Everybody's talking about it. Lots of people love it. It's about these 2 people who meet on this one day in New York City. They're 2 teenagers, and the girl character is about to be deported. Her family is about to be deported back to Jamaica, and the male character is Korean American. So I do appreciate the diversity. It was good to see multiple perspectives. Nicola Yoon is great with that. I'm not a fan of love at first sight type stories. However, I did like that they included that research experiment, the 34 or 36 questions that lead to love. It was easy to read, the chapters were really short. What I really liked is that it was multiple perspectives. So you got Natasha's perspective and you got Daniel's perspective. But you also got these other weird little chapters that were inserted in there that were like the history of black hair care products and the perspective of the security guard working at the customs office. And I did not give this book a super high rating, and that is because I felt like everything was too convenient. Nicola Yoon was going for kind of a serendipity type thing where everything is all of these threads are kind of twining together to create this beautiful tapestry that works out perfectly. It was fun, but I don't feel like it was very realistic, so that's why I knocked it down a star or two on Goodreads. But overall, it was definitely enjoyable. I read it in one sitting, so I just sat down and powered through it for 5 hours, so it kept my attention. It was really fun in that way. Next up, we have another self-empowerment type book, and that's Light is the New Black by Rebecca Campbell. Now, I obviously am reading some self-help type books at the beginning of the new year. It's one of those things that I like to do, just kind of get some ideas for how to re-inspire myself. This book wasn't the best one that I've ever read. It didn't feel very original to me. It felt like a lot of ideas that I'd read in other books, but I did enjoy it, and it did give me a little spark of inspiration and desire to be a little more creative and a little more loving. It was easy to read through, so it's a good starter. I wouldn't say that it's the best one out there, but it was worth reading. After that, I read a book that I really loved, and that was The Invasion of the Tearling. Now, I read The Queen of the Tearling, which is a gorgeous book, by the way. I read that 2 or 3 years ago. Before it even came out, I had the ARC of it, and I loved that book. It's a really slow burn political fantasy book about a regressed America, sort of. And it's following this young girl, she's 19, Kelsey Raleigh, her rise to power and her trying to put this broken kingdom back together. So I thought that it was really well written. I didn't really get bored. I enjoyed it. The second book was a continuation. I don't want to spoil anybody. I am going to be doing a review on it though, so check that out if you've read this book. Yeah, 5 out of 5 stars. This was a really good one. Next, I read Adventures for Your Soul, 21 Ways to Transform Your Habits and Reach Your Full Potential by Shannon Kaiser. Not my favorite. Not my favorite by way of self-empowerment, self-improvement books. It was good. It just didn't... I was expecting more, I guess. I was expecting something really fun. I thought adventure, you know, joy route, that'll be fun, but I don't know, I didn't really like it very much, so I'm just gonna move along. I also listened to one audiobook this month, and that was A Man Called Uva. This by Frederick Bachman, or Bachman, however you pronounce it. This was translated into English, and I really liked it. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. It's about this old curmudgeon who's really grumpy and just is tired of life and is just ready to be done. But then this new family moves in next door, and it's sort of about his relationship with them and then his relationship with other people in the community, bringing him back to life. You know, it reminded me a lot of the storied life of A.J. Fikry. So if you like that, I think you'll definitely like A Man Called Uva. I read another translated book this month. I did really well this month pushing myself out of my comfort zone, and that was My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. Now this was a recommendation of Max over at Well Done Books. He recommended this book on his channel, and I decided, you know what, I'll pick it up. It doesn't look like something I would enjoy, but I'll try. My thoughts on this book. I didn't really love it, but I can see why he did, if that makes sense. Sometimes she described concepts, internal conflicts and things like that. She described them so profoundly and accurately, and it would just kind of, certain sentences would just hit you and you're like, oh man, that's true, that's right. It was interesting to see this other cultural perspective. I was shocked even from the very outset. This book is very violent. These people are so violent to each other, their families, their neighbors. There's so much violence and just like spewing of hatred. And it was kind of surprising to me. It was just a cultural norm that people would be really like verbally and physically abusive to each other. So it was an interesting perspective to read from, and I definitely feel like I will continue on with this series, but maybe not right away, or maybe I'll read one every few months or something like that. But My Brilliant Friend. After that, I quickly read through Highly Illogical Behavior by John Corey Whaley. This book particularly caught my attention because the main character has agoraphobia. So he has this severe and irrational fear of being out in public spaces. So the last 3 years he has not left his parents' house. And this is the story of this young girl who wants to be a psychologist, wants to go to university for psychology, and so she decides that she's going to take on Solomon Reed, that's his name, she's going to take him on as her case. She's going to try to fix him in the summer before senior year. I really disliked her character, so it made it hard for me to enjoy this book. But I do like John Corey Whaley's writing style. It's really easy to read, kind of quirky and fun. So I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. I didn't like it as much as Where Things Come Back, that's his other one. I didn't like it as much as that, but I still like his writing style. So overall, pretty good. The final book that I read in the month of January this year was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the illustrated edition by Jim Kay. Now, I bought this when it first came out, right? I was super excited, but I haven't read it, and it's been over a year since they released this first one in the illustrated edition. My favorite book of all time, if you've been watching my videos, you'll know this, is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, and that was illustrated by Jim Kay. So I had this vested interest in loving this Harry Potter book. I really wanted to love it. And I did. I'm not going to say that I didn't like it. It wasn't as powerful, the illustrations, as A Monster Calls for me, but I still really enjoyed it. And there's something fun about books that are illustrated. You just feel like they're little treats. Like when you get to a page that has an illustration, I just get all excited. I'm just exuberant, what can I say? I really did enjoy this, and I've read all of the Harry Potter books, so don't freak out on me. I have read them all, but I have not read them since I was a kid. I think that I literally started reading the Harry Potter books when I was 5 years old. So essentially, I have not read Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, if you're saying it correctly, because it was written in England, so we should be saying it how they say it in England. But anyway, that aside, I haven't read it since I was 5, so I don't really remember much about it, and I haven't watched the movie since I was probably, I don't know, 8 or 9. I watched it a few times, like when it first came out and then the next year or two, but that's about it. It was fun to relive it, and I would give it a 5 out of 5 stars. Obviously, Harry Potter is the OG. It's the best, you know, it's obviously, everybody loves it, and it's great. Everybody loves it for a reason. Okie dokie, I have been talking for a very long time now, so I'm gonna let you go. But overall, January, really good start to my reading year. I hope you all had a great start to your reading year and just a great month in general. I'll be seeing more of you very soon. So until then, stay happy, stay healthy. I love you guys.